Good morning, Hope Church. Thank you for watching online. So let's continue on the Bible talk. The theme of the series is Walk in Love, Walk of Love in the Spirit of the Gospel. So today, I believe it's the 10th week, and today's subtitle is Bound by Love. Bound by Love. So let's open 1 John 2:7. It says, I am not writing you a new commandment, but an old commandment that you have from the beginning. This old covenant is the word that you have heard. So John says he's not writing a new covenant, new commandment, but he's writing the same covenant, the commandment that they used to have from the beginning. So it probably talking about the old covenant, old commandment, the law. So John is saying, although we are preaching the gospel, the message of love, this has nothing new from the old covenant, old law, old commandment that they have heard from the beginning. So John, in a sense, is saying the old covenant, old law, old commandment actually was preaching the love, same love. It's nothing new. And also, 2 John, he says the same thing, 2 John 1:5-6. He said, I am not writing you a new commandment, but the one we have heard from the beginning, that we love one another. This is his commandment. As you have heard from the beginning, you should walk in love. So again, he's saying the law and covenant we used to have, the Jewish people had from the beginning, which is the Mosaic covenant, I believe it was. He said actually it's the same thing. It's nothing new. And from what we heard from the beginning, it's walk of love. So old covenant is in itself as teaching about loving people. So when it says, when we heard from the beginning, with the same message we have heard from the beginning. So in other words, God actually has only one message, whether it's revealed in the old way or revealed in a new way. God actually had only one message to humanity. The commandment is love. Love one another was the primary one message, only message that God wanted to communicate to the humanity. So because the sin entered into humanity, God actually had to make a law. God had to command people to love. But when we were created in the beginning, we were a creature of love. We were created in love, by love, for love, to love. So love was the fundamental way of life for all humanity before sin. But because sin came into our life, now God had to command people, humanity, thou shalt love. Because of the sin, love no longer was natural for us. It was not a natural thing for us to love. So therefore, God, in order to bring us back to the original state, He had to reveal the importance of love, the foundation of love by the methods of law. So although the law says thou shalt love, that's the only thing the law and God wanted to communicate to the people, humanity, was love. But this paradox happened because of the presence of sin. The law commands thou shalt love your neighbor. But once it's commanded, it's no longer love. If we were commanded to love, it is a command, it's no longer love. Because love, genuine love, supposed to be voluntarily love. It is free will. It has to be unconditional, no string attached. That is a love. But once it's commanded to love, it's no longer love. It's a compulsion. It's by force. So it's a contradiction. It's a paradox. But it's not the paradox on the side of God. It's not a paradox or contradiction in God's kingdom. It's paradox and contradiction in the human side. because of the presence of sin. It became a paradox for on our end. The loving, being commanded to love, because of the presence of sin, we could not love, and by force and by compulsion. So it is actually a paradox on the human side because of the presence of sin, but never God's problem. Anyhow, we can see from the beginning, from the creation, love was the fundamental rule, fundamental principle, foundation for our humanity's way of thinking, way of what we say, what we do, how we behave. The foundation of it all was love. Love was the only message God had from the beginning, whether it's a law commanded by the form of law or commanded by the form of the gospel, form of the grace. Love is the only way we're created to do, created to live. So love was the only thing that governed humanity, what we can say. It was a law that governed humanity was actually love from the beginning, the Bible says. So whatever we say, whatever we think, whatever we behave, it was the foundational primary governing power of humanity should be love. That is bound by love. So in this book, we learned about freedom from law in chapter 5. We took a lengthy time to explain what it means to be free from the law. So in this free from the law, we actually had a real freedom from the law. And in a sense that we are free from the action, dry action of good and evil, and free from lack thereof, and free from the punishment in lacking of good, doing evil, or curse and judgment of lack of good and presence of evil. So we are all free from that by love, the love of Jesus. We are actually free from the love. But some people actually understand the partial truth about this freedom from law, and you actually focuses on freedom by love of God. Only cling on the freedom part, and misses another balance of the spirit of love, and actually start using this freedom to as an excuse of their lust and desire of the flesh. That is actually a problem of preaching of the grace, preaching of the love of God, unconditional love of God, because of these people who misunderstand or partially understand and using the grace and love of God for a licentious lifestyle of making an excuse for their fleshly desire and claim grace for it. But book of Galatians, it says, we are 5:13, we were called to freedom, yes, but only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but serve one another through love. So Paul actually clearly said, you are given freedom, you're called to freedom, you do have freedom. But at the same time, do not use the freedom, do not use the power of love, essence of love, to make an excuse for your flesh, make excuse for your lustly desire, carnal desire, selfishness, self-seeking, self-centeredness, and flesh. Don't do that. So you have to know, this is the fundamental statement about the gospel. Love produces free people. Love actually produces free people, but love will not produce lawless people. There is a clear difference between free people and lawless people. So there's a distinction between that free people by God's love and lawless people by misusing the power of grace. So we have to understand that there's love produces freedom, yes, but does not lawless people. So if you're walking in a lawless life, a licentious life, by using grace of God, you are totally mistaken. the grace. And also we have to say this: love, true love, creates freedom, but creates boundary at the same time. True love creates freedom, yet at the same time creates the boundary. So you cannot just take the freedom part of the gospel and run free into your flesh and carnal desire. You actually have to know that the same love actually put a boundary to our lives. It is a love, it's a law. Love is the message, a governing power, governing source. In other words, you can say law. Love is a law, it governs us. Although we are free from the law of good and evil, but at the same time, we are governed by the higher law of love. So that's what we have to know. And actually, 1 Peter 2:16, Peter also says, live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but live as a servant bound to God. We are free from the law, but we are bound to God, bound by love, bound to God. In other words, God is love, so we can say in practical way, we are bound to love. We are free from the old good and evil, all these laws, but at the same time, we are bound by the law of love. We are bound by love. So I want to talk about this bound by love part. Love of God gives us freedom, but it actually gives us boundary as well. It gives us boundary. It sets the boundary. Love not only free people, but actually sets a boundary to people. So it's the easiest probably way to explain is when I love my wife Angela. When I say I love Angela, it gives freedom of expression of my love to her. It gives freedom to enjoy her life. It gives them freedom to explore a beauty of love between Angela and I. That love does give freedom in that. But at the same time, when I say I love Angela, it sets a boundary that I do not go out with other girls. I do not violate Angela's love looking for other girls. There's a clear boundary I do not cross to other girls. That also, I hope you understand. I love Angela. I love my wife. In that, there's so many freedom. But at the same time, love sets a boundary to me that I do not cross. So I hope that's the understanding. So I do not need any other law to bind me. Love actually sets me a boundary. Love itself sets me a boundary that I cannot cross. So these are the things we must understand if we want to walk in love. Not only no longer walking in the law, but walking in love. We have to understand that with love does not make a lawless people, but it actually love itself creates a boundary on every Christian that we do not cross. So this is the theme of bound by love. It seems like early Christians, early church, they seems to find have a hard time, a struggle to find the balance of freedom and boundary. We can pretty much see that in letter of Galatians and Peter, that they're trying to enforce the freedom, yet teaching them that there's a boundary by the same love. Especially when it comes to flesh and licentious life and self-centeredness, you cannot do that. There's a boundary to it. So the truth that gospel preaches is that there's a freedom in love, but yet the same love actually limits us. Same love actually put us in a boundary, in a safe area. And one of the way that actually New Testament uses, the early apostle or churches uses to describe this freedom, and yet the boundary is actually the matter of wine and meat. And throughout some scriptures, Paul actually describes this essence of freedom we have by the love, and yet also the same love actually binds us to sets a boundary that we cannot cross. So let's read some of the example for us to understand what it means to walk in love. What is the life bound by love look like? So Romans 14:15 to 21, Paul actually mentions about drinking wine, drinking alcohol, and drinking meat. This meat is not a pork. He's talking about meat that offered to idols. So just associated with idol worship. So that kind of wine and meat, it kind of has to do with conscience of a person. So Paul says, "For if your brother is grieved by what you eat, you are no longer walking in love. Do not destroy the one for whom Christ died by what you eat. Do not destroy the work of God for the sake of your food. Everything is indeed clean, yes, but it is good not to eat meat, drink wine, or do anything that causes your brother to stumble." So this is actually a nutshell of the freedom aspect of the gospel by love and grace, and also same love governs us, sets us a boundary to it. So Paul says everything is actually clean. In itself, everything is clean. Actually, the wine, alcohol is good. It's nothing wrong with it. It's in itself, it's not evil. The meat is just a meat. It's just a lump of flesh. It's a meat. Nothing wrong with it. It's just clean. But to some people, to some people it's clean. It's no problem. Well, drinking wine is good. But to some people, because of the former association, former history of their lives, the same thing that is just free to us can actually be a grieving to the other people, to your neighbor. To some people, actually, alcohol is the very thing that destroyed their lives. To us, to some of you, alcohol is nothing. It's clean. It's free. We are free. We have freedom by God's grace. With grace, we are free to drink. Yes, indeed. But to some brothers and sisters, alcohol is the very thing that destroyed their family, the very thing that destroyed their health. Alcohol is the very thing that stole their jobs, stole their social status, destroy their names, to the point some of them lose everything. So to us, because of the love and because of the freedom, because of the grace, alcohol is so free, which is no problem. But to some, they have to fight against the alcohol. To some, in the name of grace, in the name of love, they welcome alcohol in their lives. But we have to know, to some people, alcohol is the very thing they have to kick out their lives. They cannot welcome the alcohol. They have to fight. They have to go into complete zero alcohol to their life. So you have to understand that in walk of freedom, there's also a boundary. So Paul actually explains, hey, some people say, hey, you're free from law. We do have freedom, right? We are called to freedom, free from whenever we eat, whenever we eat, we're free. Yes, indeed, we're free. But if the Bible says, if you are going to grieve your brother and sister by what you drink, you're no longer walking in love. So, in other words, hey, you're claiming your love, you're claiming your freedom by the love of God, but at the same time, your freedom is grieving your brother, grieving your neighbor, and then you're no longer walking in love. You have to take a notice on this. We are talking about walking in love. We can always think about walking in love in matter of how much freedom received, how much grace we receive, how much we are free from the law. We can all claim that. But when we are in the pursuit of our freedom, pursuit of our own rights, pursuit of our own grace application, we can actually grieve other people. And then Bible says you're no longer walking in love. And if these things are not causing us to not to walk in love, and we must pay attention, because only thing we want to do is to have a walk of love, walking in love. So we need to be aware of our behavior, because our freedom, your freedom actually can be the cause to destroy your neighbor. Your application of the love of God to your life can actually cause the destruction of your loving brother who is sitting in your in the same church. So we must really understand what it really means to walk in love. You can actually claim to say, it's my freedom to enjoy alcohol. It's my freedom to enjoy drinking. Yes, it's your freedom. You may say, it's free, right? But yes, but at the same time, if you're choosing your love for alcohol over your love for brother and sister, you're no longer walking in the love. So yes, there's a truth in the gospel that sets you free from to eat, drink, whatever you can drink, or you can drink alcohol, no problem. But at the same time, the same love actually sets the boundary that you cannot cross. You cannot cross the loving neighbor boundary. So you need to really walk in, understand. Of course, we are free by the love of God, but at the same time, the same love of God sets the boundary of our behavior, of our lifestyle, over what we say, what we do, even what we eat and drink. So that's how a walk of love actually looks like. So the word Paul says stumble, calls your brother to stumble. Stumble actually means to draw people into sin and set a trap in front of their foot, or cause confusion. That's what it means, to draw people into sin or cause people to confuse or set a trap in front of people. So we don't want our freedom to draw people into sin. We don't want our freedom and love, expression of love, set a trap actually people to sin or fall, or to cause confusion in their faith. So we need to be aware. Walking in love actually takes a careful walk in application, what you can do, what you shouldn't do. So although we are free from law, or you yourself personally have all kind of freedom, but at the same time, the freedom sets the boundary. Love sets the boundary that you cannot cross. There, actually, this is not just a mere doctrine to me. Yeah, I have a life experience in my life. About 25 years ago, when I actually first became staff of this church, I used to take care of a homeless man. This homeless man was saved out of a evangelistic meeting in the church, and he would come to a church to one of the pot stew making nights, so he can eat stew and soup. And he would come to church from the chair under the bridge, literally bench on the park. He would come just as is and drink and eat our soup and go home. So I got to know him. So I was assigned to disciple him, and actually he believed in Jesus. He received Jesus as a Savior. So he really started to transform his life. So on the step of walking, with him, I found out one of the very reason that he became homeless man was alcohol. So he used to work in a company, but now because of he started drinking, he couldn't go to work. Next day he goes to work and half drunken, smelling alcohol, and sooner or later he could not get up next day. He would miss going to work, so the company fires him. Because his company fires him, he cannot keep his apartment, and because he cannot keep apartment, he's kicked out of the apartment. And where he is, a few months later, he found himself in the park sleeping on the bench. So that's how it began. So recovery for him, and for him to walk in the fullness of God created him, it looked like it just first step was to clean him from the alcohol. That was evident. It was not a secret. It was just clear that he had to quit drinking. So first couple months, it was really going good. He really encountered Jesus. He really wanted to wash himself and start anew. So we set him up to so that he can get apartments, he can get a job, he can get a cell phone. So with the church, we helped him to really get back on the normal track from homeless to get a secure job in an apartment. It actually is a very difficult process in Japan, if you know, but we did it. So first, few months and 6 months, we were really doing good. He loved Jesus, and he was really going celibate from the alcohol. Anyway, so to him, becoming Christian means quit drinking. That was his idea, and I encouraged to think like that. And many of our church back then, almost everybody was staying away from alcohol. In our church, that was a kind of a culture. So not many people really drink, in their life. So, by being encouraged by other church members, and he was really going good, growing up in faith, growing up and really get back on the job, get back on the apartment. We helped him to get a job, an apartment, everything. So he was so doing good. But one day, as he was really going good, one day he just as he was exploring this new Christian world and faith, and getting to know other Christians and believers, and one day he found out there's a group of Christians that actually drinks alcohol. There's a group of people, Christian, that actually enjoy drinking after service, and they actually go to drinking on purpose to celebrate Jesus. Drinking alcohol was a major part of their fellowship, and they're bragging on it. They're showing off how much they can drink as a Christian. So he found what Christian drink. So that was he was kind of shocked, but he explored the group, and so, yeah, lo and behold, they drink. They encourage people to drink. They thrive in drinking. They're bragging. They're showing off how much. And what the thing was, I was set free by the love of Jesus. We are free. We're free to drink. We can drink as a Christian. God doesn't judge us when we drink because we're free. God doesn't punish us when we drink because we're free by the love of God. That was their message. So it was, they were really actually doing good as a group. But when my friend actually that got to know these people, his complete faith was flipped. I would say, biblical word, he stumbled over that. And so he started, what? Christian can drink? So we were, up until then, our conversation was, hey, are you doing good? Alcohol? Yeah, doing good, okay. It's great, you're going to be clean. You probably do not want to drink anymore. He was coming close to really be clean from even desiring the alcohol. But because upon knowing that, hey, there's other Christians drinking. And I said, yeah, of course, there's other people who drink. There's nothing wrong with drinking, but you do not need that, right? But once that trigger was ignited, once the forgotten dream or forgotten taste for it was ignited, he started, okay, I can be Christian yet drink alcohol. What goodness is that? I don't have to quit drinking. I can be Christian. So that was really difficult. So since then, he became more a little bit rebellious to what we are trying to say. As I continue to encourage, no, yes, there are some people who drinks, but we don't believe in that. You don't need that, right? But he wouldn't listen to me anymore. So anyway, it just didn't take long for him to go back to the drinking habit. He started drinking again, and he stopped coming to church often. He started missing the church. And soon enough, I started listening, receiving phone call from his company. I used to be a guarantor for him, so my name would be associated with his company. So if anything happened, the company would call me. So he said, "Hey, company called me. Hey, such and such is not showing up in his work. It's been 3 days, 4 days. Is he okay? He's not answering phone either." So I would go to him, his apartment. I knew where he lived, so I would knock on them and just kind of peek from the window. Here he is. He's drinking, sleeping, in with a big jar of alcohol on his bed. So anyway, he just went back to drinking habit. He was fired from the company. He left apartment, and I just don't know what happened. Anyway, so it was really going good, but because he find out there's a Christian group drinks, he got stumbled. He was allured again, drawn back to the sin. It was set up in front of his eyes to drink. It caused confusion in his faith. Yeah, because me, you said don't drink, but there's some people Christian drinking be successful. Why can't I be drinking again? Nothing wrong with it, but he went back to drinking. Anyway, years passed, years and years passed. But after years, one of his relatives contacted me because I was his contact list, I guess. He contacted me, the relatives informed me that he passed away. He passed away, and according to the family, when he passed away, the big jar of shochu, the 40% strong spirit, was by his bedside. It's just a sad story, sad story. It is this, to me, this is not just a story in the Bible. It happened to me too. This man was really doing good. But other Christians, they claim their freedom. Yes, it's their freedom. I'm not judging them. It's their freedom. It's nothing wrong for anybody to drink alcohol. But at the same time, they bragged about it. They encouraged people. They were bragging how much they can drink as a Christian back then. So their freedom caused the stumbling. It became a stumbling block. Their freedom, their expression of the love of God, their expression of the grace of God actually literally destroyed one believer, snatched out of our hand. So, yes, of course, anybody can claim freedom. Anybody can claim the expression of a free expression of their love and grace of God. But who is responsible for the death and blood of this man? Again, in our church, we do not want to become a stumbling block of anybody. Walking in love is not a life that causing stumbling block and alluring people to sin because of my freedom. That's not a walk of love that we want to produce. When I say walk of love in a true, genuine love for other people. Those people who claim to be drinkers, they're great, but they're loving their own alcohol over loving neighbors. So I believe, we don't want that. So that's one reason, as a Hope Church, it's a side note, but this is the very reason the Hope Church do not condone, encourage, even endorse drinking, Christian drinking. that very reason. In Japan, alcohol is something that we Christian needs to fight, I believe. It's not something we welcome into our family. It's look how many families been destroyed. Look how many divorces being happened over alcohol. Look how many domestic violence happen over the drunken husband, father beating up on the kids and wives. Look how many disease and sickness causes by alcohol. When you go to a doctor in the checkup, the very thing the doctors tell you is stop drinking, right? Drinking has become a destroying power over everything: finance, family, health, love. According to looking at what alcohol produces, the church cannot endorse it. It's completely against what Jesus wants to produce in Japan. So as a church, I am not talking about any other churches, but as of Hope Church, we feel strongly we're called to fight against the power and the influence of the alcohol in Japan. We do not use grace. Because of grace, we can drink. Yes, true. But I would rather use grace. Because of grace, we don't have to drink. We can have peace, we can have fun, we can have joy, satisfaction without relying on drinks because of God's grace. If you truly encounter God's grace, we truly don't have to rely on any other form of addictive things in the world. So that's how much we want to endorse, especially in Hope Church leaders. I want you to be aware that if you are to be a leader in Hope Church, we strongly advise to stay away from alcohol, to be an example walking in love looks like for Japanese people. So actually 1 Corinthians also says, chapter 8 verse 1, now concerning the food offered to an idol, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Take care that this right of yours does not become a stumbling block to the weak. For if anyone sees you who have knowledge eating in idol's temple, will he not be encouraged, though his conscience is weak, to eat food offered to idols? And so you, by your knowledge, by your freedom, by your love, knowledge of love and freedom, this weak person is destroyed. Thus, by wounding their weak conscience, you sin against your brothers, and you sin against Christ. Wow. This is a serious statement that the New Testament makes. It is a freedom to eat anything I want. It is a freedom to anything I want to drink anything I want. It's a freedom to say anything I want. It's a freedom to see anything I want. But all these things, my freedom can actually offend and stumble weak people. The Bible says we sin against Christ. So we need to be aware that our walking in love, and enjoying freedom, enjoying being healed, but at the same time, same love sets the boundary. Do not let your freedom be the stumbling block for other people. Do not let your freedom be sinning against your brother, sinning against God. So we need to be aware. Your freedom can be sin, can end up in sin if you're not careful. So no matter what freedom we have, no matter how much grace we understand, if we are not walking in love, walking by the love, if we are not bound by love, we may actually violate the law of love and actually violate the Spirit of Christ and sinning against God. So let's really be careful and do not love your freedom over loving the neighbor. Do not claim your freedom over claiming love for neighbor. That's the walk of love. You always choose love. We need to be led by love. We need to be led by, governed by love. Do not be led by your freedom per se, because it can lead to your licentious lifestyle, self-centered use of freedom, even to the point of hurting other people. So, but pursue love. This is what 1 Corinthians 14:1 says. Paul actually end up summarizing all this love scripture by saying this, 14:1. Pursue love. Make it your highest goal. Pursue love. Make it your highest goal. So when it comes to walking in love, at the same time, the other truth says you're free from law, you can do anything you want, but at the same time, you must know this love that you claim to cling to actually set you free, but set the boundary to your life. So let me say, life in Christ is not a life in pursuit of freedom, but rather a life in pursuit of love. Our Christian life is not a life pursuit of freedom per se, but our life must be a life pursuit of love. Pursue love over your personal freedom. Pursue love over your personal indulgence. Pursue love over to your free expression of your love and grace. And then we'll be fine walking in love. And that's, I think, one of the Bible clarity on that. So let's be careful and enjoy our personal freedom in a secret place, of course, but yet be careful that your action or your freedom does not offend other people. That is the true walk of love. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for your loving us. Thank you for giving us grace. Thank you for setting us free from the law. We are indeed free. Everything is clean to eat and drink, anything we can do. Yet, at the same time, help us to be aware of the brothers and sisters, neighbors around us, and cause us not to our freedom to offend other people and destroy their faith in Jesus. Help us, Lord, to genuinely walk in love. Amen.